lastly, future considerations and doing more research prompted by the wisdom of the council. AB 2363, Zero Traffic Fatalities Task Force. In that bill, there's a whole bunch of reporting requirements, but one of the ones that is uniquely important to this discussion is that they are going to determine and analyze whether alternative methods to the 85th percentile should be considered. So I think that the results of that will give local authorities more control over how we establish those speed limits. And then lastly, on those 23 segments, staff is currently working with the planning department, fire department, police department in developing really a toolkit for the city and how we can implement planning mechanisms, traffic calming devices to influence that 85th percentile. So it's our hope that we come back with the 23 and probably more as time goes on. Street segments that have very little change. No guarantees, but that's the goal that is before you. And that's it. Any questions?
So with that, are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Okay, thank you. How about council questions and comments?
Under the vehicle code, it has the term free flowing. If we implement calming devices, speed bumps, that kind of thing, any type of that, does that change in that free flowing under the definition of the vehicle code?
No, it does not. That would be a collision that's there influencing traffic, a rain event during the time of the monitoring.
So we couldn't set up by a traffic light and wait till the light turns red and then go right when the light turns green?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the calming measures.
One of the things that's required of that is if there is an added cost for some of those traffic calming measures, we will need to explore what those implications are for the city of Hemet. I think we heard loud and clear from the council that increasing the limits was not something that they were fond of. So we will be exploring that. That is a collaborative effort that is going to require multiple departments to come together. Eric made some suggestions that when we start forming street maintenance districts, that this is something that we may want to look at in terms of including an allocation for that, so that it's not coming out of the city's general fund or other funds. So we are beginning to look at that collectively and what that means moving forward for the city of Hemet.
And the cost, if I may, the cost on those vary greatly. So I was talking to the traffic engineer for the city of Riverside, and he was telling me that in one section they just sprayed a red block across the entire street with white lettering that said 25 miles an hour, and it reduced their 85th percentile by 4 miles, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's the difference between a swing of 10 or staying the same. So, and that's almost, I was going to say a zero cost, but a relatively low, inexpensive cost.
The other thing that I will mention on this too is there's, because of turnover in engineering, there is a backlog of these items, and so this isn't going to be the last item before the council. So that's why it is very important that we continue to explore the options related to some of those other traffic calming measures, because as we're trying to get caught up with the backlog, those same issues that were conveyed the first meeting will probably present themselves in future meetings as well.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for hearing us and putting some time into this and being creative. But we just can't keep raising speed limits. Yeah, because I could do a nice graph for 20 years from now, I'm telling you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you are bringing this back in part and giving us more time to deal with those other streets where the 85th percentile was recommending an increase, because I think as I stated at our last meeting and when we met in the task force discussion, the fundamental flaw that I see in the 85th percentile is the fact that motorists continue to drive faster and faster all the time for a variety of reasons. And so that artificially begins to elevate the 85th percentile until it becomes unsafe and unreasonable. So I'm gratified to see that AB 2363 might bring some alternative approach because the NTSB is even commenting on their website that the 85th percentile is an archaic way of determining speed limits. So I appreciate the fact, because we certainly don't want to inhibit our police department's enforcement efforts by not having a valid survey pass. So I'm in favor of the staff recommendation tonight and look forward to seeing what alternatives we can come up with for those remaining 23 streets.
Linda?
Going back to the 100 free-flowing vehicle speeds that Michael asked about, do you have to be stationary in that location as the survey is being done, or is there an option of, maybe going to sound, it's an either or, staying in this location and then moving 75, 80 feet down the street and taking another one there to determine free-flowing speeds mid-block or mid-segment or something like that to determine? I mean, is it just one stationary spot?
I believe it is, and there's a few issues there. One, the blocks are generally about a quarter mile each, just by the way they're divided. And I'm not sure that in most areas you'd see a real change in the amount of cars, with several exceptions to that. I'm just generalizing it. I don't. The other issue would just be cost for them, and trickle down to the cost for the city. So that I think we could pursue that if there was a direction for that or a desire for that, but I'm not sure the results would change.
Okay, I was just curious about that, but what Russ said on the 85th percentile, I mean, it shows in some of these surveys where the 85th percentile is 71 and 72 miles per hour, and it's like, yeah, well, good luck with that, Charlie.
I was at a SCAG meeting this morning, and they were stating that one of the direct causes of the 85th percentile increasing is the efficiency of our cars and how we're creating this environment in our car where before we were able to hear the road, hear outside the windows, but the cars that have become so smooth that you're only relying on your visual sensory. And unfortunately, the smoothness of it allows you to get to 100 miles an hour before you're even aware of it.
Absolutely right. Yep. That's why the 85th percentile on the 215 is 83 miles an hour. I travel with them. No, I don't. I don't ever travel with them.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion for item 9C to adopt the resolution regarding speed limits on 43 street segments throughout the city of Hemet?
So moved.
Second.
So a first and a second. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Item 9D, an interim urgency ordinance declaring a temporary moratorium on cultivation of industrial hemp by established agricultural research institutions and others within the boundaries of the city of Hemet. Recommendation is read by title, vote to adopt ordinance, 4/5 majority, or ordinance is effective immediately for 45 days.
Yeah, so Eric was able to draft up a moratorium. One of the things that came to mind as it relates to this item was that as the City Council delves down the path of Measure Z implementation, we really didn't want to hamstring ourselves with any sort of action by not having this in place. And so as I think you all got a meeting invitation for a couple weeks from now to begin exploring some of those things. We wanted to make sure that we didn't tie our hands with anything. So that's the item before you. I will hand it over to Eric to provide some more detail on this item.
Mayor and council members, you have an existing prohibition on commercial cannabis businesses. Under the law, there is a legal distinction between what's called industrial hemp, which is often and historically has been used for rope and clothing and similar things, but more currently is used for CBD oil. Your ordinance doesn't cover industrial hemp. Starting in 2013, the state paved the way for large-scale industrial hemp cultivation, contingent upon the federal government removing industrial hemp from its schedule of controlled substances. In late 2018, it did that, which started the process for a number of California and federal agencies to create regulations. That regulation rulemaking process is not complete yet. However, notwithstanding the fact that the regulation and rule process isn't complete, the county Riverside County Commissioner of Agriculture has started to identify and register sites for cultivation of industrial hemp in Riverside County. Based on the report that they have on their website that I saw today, there are 4 sites identified within the city of Hemet boundaries, and it looks like an additional 10 sites located in your sphere of influence out in the Val Vista area. We recommend that you adopt an inter-emergency ordinance so these sites and other sites don't end up with industrial hemp on them before you've fully evaluated along with your community whether you want some kind of commercial cannabis businesses, you want to extend your prohibition, or whether you will welcome the cultivation of industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is different from cannabis in a chemical way, but in appearance it looks exactly like regular cannabis plants. Industrial cannabis has to have less than 0.3% of THC. That's the major legal difference between the two. The problem that we have on a local level is it's very difficult to see a field or a cultivation facility full of industrial hemp plants and distinguish them from illegal cannabis plants. We could be put to the task of having to take out field kits and do field testing, and there aren't really regulations or rules to support that yet. So in the interim, while you're going through your evaluation process and the industrial hemp rulemaking process is going through its stages of review and evaluation and public comment before final rules are made, we would suggest that you adopt an inter-emergency ordinance. The item before you today would go effect immediately. It does require a 4/5 vote at least to pass. It would be in effect for 45 days, although I think our recommendation is that we would bring back a 1-year and 15-day extension at your first meeting in September. That would give you enough time to hopefully get through and come to some kind of decision on the Measure Z implementation process that the city manager mentioned. With that, I can try to answer any of the questions that you might have. Otherwise, that's the Thank you.
Thank you. Council have any questions at this point?
I have one. How can the county of Riverside identify sites within the city limits of Hemet where hemp would be allowed?
The county really doesn't go through any evaluation or identification process. They simply rely on people to submit applications. And when an application is pending, it's an identified site. When it's been approved or registered, it's now a registered site by the Commissioner of Agriculture.
Okay.
That doesn't in and of itself give them permission to go ahead and
Authorize.
farm
Okay.
or cultivate, but our existing system is vague enough with regard to our agricultural regulations that we should have a prohibition in place until we come up with a permanent policy.
Okay. I have one other question. One of the subcategories in the resolution, it said on number 1, the California Senate Bill 566 from 2013 is the California Industrial Hemp Farming Act. Is that an actual, yeah, really?
Yeah, that should be hemp.
Oh, it's not hemp, it's hemp.
It's not. It's hemp.
Okay.
I'll work with with the city clerk to fix that. Thank you for finding that.
Well, you know me, I'm going to zero in on something on that. I'm going, we actually have a hemp farming act. I
Actually,
knew
yeah.
that, but I didn't know about it.
Well, I think Ross caught that too. He sent that over earlier today, so we made that change on our side. So thank you.
Okay, nothing further.
Good to know. Were there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Okay. With that, I need a motion for item 9B.
I will move approval of 9B, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Council. Next item is City Council staff reports. Did I miss one?
Okay. I don't have time to find that. RCTC is dark in August. The Ramona Bowl Association Boo at the Bowl is coming up October 25, 26, and 27 at the Bowl. Our TA is dark. The library board is meeting Friday morning at 10 o'clock. And also the lunch at the library program with Hemet Unified finished out its year, distributing 1,849 lunches to young people in our community. Southern California League of Cities, we had an executive committee meeting last night and formulated the agenda for the conference that's coming up in Long Beach. And also there will be positions open on the executive committee, and emails are going out to all of the members if there's interest in applying to be on the executive committee. You already got it? Okay. SCAG, at the last meeting, the regional council approved the 3 different options for determining RHNA numbers, which is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment numbers for our SCAG region. They will be holding public comments and public meetings to determine which of the 3 will be accepted by SCAG and then can be sent to the state of California for the HCD to make the determination whether or not we can do things the way we want to do things. So if you're interested in going to those meetings, go onto their website, and they will be advertising them, I believe, on Facebook too, so that people can come and weigh in on the housing needs that are being sent down from the state of California. Water Master Board meets on the 23rd, and that's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Meyer.
All right. Our Investment Oversight Committee did not meet this last month, so our next meeting will be Monday, August 19th at 1 p.m. And I don't even know how to say all this, but there's been a lot of activity with our homeless outreach team and the different involvement in our community, from volunteers, from engagement, that is so overwhelming in the last month to see the growth. It's been incredible. So the different stories, I'll just have to share with you guys on the fly because it's way too much. But all the way from youth, some of our at-risk youth, to the homeless projects. So
It's been exciting, so, yeah. Councilmember Percival.
I've got nothing. Our next meeting for RCA is next month.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Just for our city clerk, if you could delete item 2, Traffic and Parking Commission off, because we took council action on that, and there's a new commission going to be born one of these days. So if we can delete that. Water Master Board meeting is coming up next week. And there's an agenda meeting scheduled to go over the items for discussion on that. And Western Community Energy Board, I'll be attending as your alternate day after tomorrow.
Yeah, Thursday.
At the WCE meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay. Planning Commission, there was just one item to increase, a CUP to increase some patio space for a business. Western Riverside Council of Governments, we were provided a water update between Western Municipal Water District and EMWD. Southern California Association of Governments, she's already commented on. Western Community Energy Board, Russ is taking that seat on Thursday. Homeless Task Force, we continue to network and coordinate information between those that attend that meeting, which include faith-based, city, county, safety personnel. And we attended, Linda and I and Carly actually presented as well on her hot team to the first District 3 regional meeting that included Hemet, San Jacinto, Murrieta, and Temecula. And we actually just gave a broad overview of what cities are doing. And I think that's it on that. And the ad hoc committee reports, Florida Avenue 74 ad hoc committee, I think we're got a meeting scheduled on the 3rd? 3rd or 4th?
Waiting on if both council members have responded to Michelle. Okay, then should be set tomorrow then.
Okay, great. Special event funding ad hoc committee?
Yes. Yeah. We met. We went over all the requests. We are going to meet again to finalize that, and we may bring before council a possible policy update on requesting.
Okay, great. Interim City Manager Lopez, manager's report.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned the follow-up meeting, so I won't talk about that
Right.
related to the median. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to take Tony Alt as well as Robert Vessel on a tour of some of the projects that we have going on in the city. Had a chance to see the walls and the top of the Stetson Bridge being poured with our crews. Pretty impressive seeing all of our construction inspectors, our CM out there, all coming together to make that project happen, as well as look at some of the street paving that's going on in the city, and then finally the significant investment that's going on over at Sanderson in Florida. I think it's over $4 million that's being invested in that location alone. So significant investments that are going on. Amazing to see that work just happening on, up front and live. And we did have one resident that was outside watering his plants, and he didn't say anything. He just gave me the thumbs up. So good to see that going on. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
And I have to say, I'm sure all of us have gotten notes from community members on seeing the progress that's been made in the community with, whether it be the construction that's going on or especially the street paving. They've really paid attention to that. And although we can't do everything all at once, there is a process. And I believe the process was that they looked at the streets that were the worst to start with and go from there. But eventually,
I think the slurry is supposed to save the ones that are not to the point of needing, so.
yeah. So anyway, it's been really nice to get those comments, and I look forward to further progress and our staff's commitment to getting things on a good track and
kudos to the engineering team and all their efforts and Public Works for everything that they're doing.
Yeah, Chris, would you speak on that really quick, on the LED? Sure. Streetlight.
Sure. Good evening, again, Council. And Mr. Tyler Masters is here from WRCOG, who has been an amazing partner and a wild ride for many years. But we are excited to let you all know that right before this meeting, we wrapped up what we needed to wrap up for our pre-construction meeting to start our LED retrofit citywide on Thursday. So it's been a long time coming. We purchased all of the SCE lights. We made that purchase before the end of fiscal year 18-19. Just to give you a little piece, we actually ended up not having to finance anything, and so and not even doing any interfund loaning on it. So really big project. WRCOG has been key. My staff members have been amazing, and we have all been running at 200 miles an hour with no traffic calming in front of us at all to get to where we got. That was actually me at 167 that you saw. Really good news. We are looking at about $4.4 million over 20 years in savings moving to LED. It is going to be a fast-moving project. They'll have about 16 vehicles out there. I will have a map. I will shoot you guys pictures as fast as I can, but probably by the time you get them an email, the whole look will have changed. Councilmember Percival, you had asked me during a break about where we could kind of go look to see what the brightness of the lights would be. So for residential areas, if you look at, there's a street called Indian Grass in the Autumn Ridge area, along Fruitvale, I believe between Costin and, may I grab my phone very quickly and I'll give you that? Okay, so Indian Grass and Dandelion in Autumn Ridge. And so Fruitvale from Sanderson to Costin will also show you some of the lights we'll be using. The reason I give you the two is because there's different brightnesses, different wattages, depending on whether you're in a cul-de-sac, whether you're kind of on a main thoroughfare, and then also near Wentworth, what does this say? I'm sorry, California, so out by Four Seasons, California from Florida north is kind of what you'll be seeing as well. I think what you'll find is that you expect them to be light and overwhelming, but they're really just putting more light on the ground, so they actually have less of a distraction to your vision as you drive. So that's a lot of info, but press release will be out tomorrow.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Tyler, for all your help getting through this process. What?
One more thing. Sorry. While we're talking about that too, saw a couple of you over at the Western Science Academy expansion, and I reached out to the construction manager, and I asked, how was it working with the City of Emmett team? And I gotta say that nothing but positive remarks about the experience. Their timeline was just amazing that they got that done. But their response of working with the City of Emmett, the team, in particular the engineering team, was pretty remarkable. So the inspectors, I know I sent a message over to Robert to make sure that that was conveyed to the inspectors. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that too. So thank you.
And one more thing too, I think all of us were at the National Night Out. Yes. Put on by Public Safety, so thank you for putting that on. And now we have future agenda items. Any future agenda items from council?
Well, Mike and I are working on the special events funding policy, so we'll try to work with the city manager and get that done.
Okay. And
we'll bring our other stuff back first.
Perfect. I have one, I want us to revisit the use of the city seal policy. And that's it. Anybody else? with that, we'll be adjourned, and, oh no, we do have the rest of the closed session, excuse me. So we'll recess to closed session. Almost got out of it, guys. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Wonderful.